Hello, YouTube community. It's Robert S., and welcome back to RobScure Music. This is a video that I have been meaning to make for several months, but it's a video that was just too difficult to make months ago. And then, life sort of gets in the way and you get involved in other things, but this video is no less important because of the timing. As a matter of fact, I think the timing is almost ideal. It's sort of between Thanksgiving, when we express our thanks for things in our lives, people in our lives, right near the year-end holidays, when we start thinking about the joys of the holidays, peace on earth and all of that. And it's followed closely by New Year's, when we tend to not only look forward to the future, but, and more importantly, look back on our past, what's transpired. And so this video sort of comes with all of these sort of emotions, this thankfulness, this look towards, a peace, inner peace, and peace in the world, and sort of looking back at what we had and what we may have lost in the past year. So this video is for our friend, Kevin Reed. Kevin Reed, more affectionately known as Beans, for the beanie caps that he always wore. And Beans was very much an important part of our YouTube community, the vinyl community, music community, whatever you want to call it. He was a friend to everyone. There were countless times when you'd be on a chat, or you're watching a live stream, and when Bean showed up, you felt a happiness about you. You're just happy to see him, and he looked happy to be there. And it takes a special type of person to be able to do that. I mean, this is a person who everyone, I think, looked at almost as their best friend. And Kevin was the best friend to many of us. Kevin and I would have many conversations outside of the live streams. And it was during our last conversation, which was around the middle of July. It was a 2-hour plus conversation. It was late at night. I remember thinking it may have been after 1 a.m. and I was getting tired. But we talked about everything. We talked about music, and Beans, as you all know, Beans loved music, and you could tell. He was very knowledgeable about music. He was just so enthusiastic. He had so many great bands and artists that he loved. And, when I think of Beans, the things that sort of automatically come to mind, the bands are Love, obviously the band Love from the 60s, and Forever Changes was his absolute favorite #1 album. I think of the Monkees. I think of Buck Owens. I think of Ian Matthews. I think of Emmett Rhodes, Merry-Go-Round. He just knew his music, and he was such a wonderful addition to the live streams. But anyway, I'm sort of getting away from what I want to talk about. So during this last conversation that I had with him, we talked about music. We talked about some YouTube community members. We talked about friends. We talked about family. We talked about life in general, and life can be very fragile, and so being fragile, we need to handle life with care and caring. So, during this time of year, and in fact all year long, for our good and for Beans, please be nice to people. So anyway, again, I'm getting a little distracted. But during this conversation that we had, I'm finding this tough to do, all these months later. But during this conversation that we had, we talked about a band that he was familiar with and I had never heard of before. It's a band based out of Pennsylvania, I think around the Philly area of Pennsylvania, with ties, and that's, I guess, an area, or Pennsylvania anyways, where Beans lived, and it had ties to Brooklyn, New York, which is close to where I live. And that band is a band called Marah, Marah. And when he talked about this band and recommended them, in particular, I think we talked about an album called Kids in Philly. And this is the album, which I obtained subsequent to our conversation. And pretty much, when we talked about it, I told him I need to check them out. They sound really interesting. And unfortunately, I never had the chance to give him my feedback. So that's kind of what I want to do today. So here it is, Beans. This is for you. So Marah is a band that was formed in the early 1990s by singer, songwriter, and guitarist Dave Bialanco, and bass guitarist Danny Metz, and drummer Ronnie Vance. And later on, maybe two or 3 years later, Dave's older brother, Sergey Bialanco, also joined the band. He's a singer, songwriter, plays guitar, and he plays harmonica. And what you find is that the musical style is somewhat similar to early Bruce Springsteen. Pretty much at the 70s period into the early 80s, maybe. And you've got a mix of different instruments. They actually play, very raw, loud, almost at times rushed type of musicians, and even the lyrics to some extent. But you've got, obviously loud guitars, you've got the drums, you've got the harmonica, you've got, uh, what else? Memphis horns, you've got sort of rock and roll mandolin, if you will. Uh, it's banjos. It's a lot of fun to listen to. Again, very very reminiscent to me of Bruce Springsteen without trying to copy Bruce. So you'll hear Bruce Springsteen, but it's also uniquely Marah. And this album, Kids in Philly, this is actually their second album, and Steve Earle, alt country folk musician Steve Earle, was so impressed with their debut album, um, which was called "Let's Cut the Crap and Hook Up Later Tonight." He was so impressed with that he let them use his recording studio for this album. So the band has, sort of these strong ties to Steve Earle, to Bruce Springsteen. I've heard people say a little bit to like Steve Forbett. Um, uh, but you hear the music and you think, these guys must be fantastic to see live, and apparently they were. They put on very energetic type of live show. Their music again sounds sometimes like they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, and a lot of times it works. And most of the songs on this album work, some more than others, but overall it's an absolutely fantastic album. And I think I'm spending too much time on this video as it is. Let me share with you the track listing here on the back. See if I can eliminate that glare. Maybe you want to pause it, take a look. But I just want to highlight a couple of the songs. You've got first song actually, Far Away You, great opener. And it's essentially a song about, a guy who sees his girl kissing another guy in the park, and basically rides the bus back to his apartment. And that's the gist of the song, but it's absolutely fantastic, and a somewhat novel idea for a song, in my opinion. Then you got Point Breeze, which is this, and I mentioned they sound a lot like Bruce Springsteen, particularly in this song. It has sort of a blinded by the light type of cadence to it, and the lyrics borrow heavily from Bruce Springsteen. We're talking hot summer nights and cars on the boulevard. You almost think that they either ripped it off or they asked Bruce to write these lyrics back in the 70s. It's that much like what you'd hear from a Bruce Springsteen song of that time. It's Only Money, Tyrone, another fantastic song. My Heart is the Bums on the Street, basically a song about bums on the street. Round Eye Blues. This is an amazing song. It's basically a song about a Vietnam vet and sort of the trauma that he faced during the war. In the lyrics to the song, and they're somewhat clever and yet paint a disturbing picture. They talk about, the narrator, if you will, of the song is a story is essentially telling us that, he hears the machine guns going off and the bombs and whatnot, and he's shaking like Little Richard and sweating like James Brown. And there's another part of the song where he talks about having those quiet moments where you can actually, have a cigarette, look out your window, and it's at those times that you find yourself praying to Jesus or praying to die. And the Vietnam War was a terrible war. I personally know somebody who was in the Vietnam War, and while he came back from the war, he didn't survive it. Let's put it that way. And then, another section he's talking about, hold your breath, boys, hold your breath. There's shrapnel in the sky and tears in your eyes. Sad song, but and probably one of the better, or if not the best, Vietnam War songs that I've heard in a while. Although 10,000 Maniacs does the big parade, which is also a Vietnam War type of song, which I think is fantastic. But that's for a different video. And then you've got From the Skyline of a Great Big Town. Oh, Barstool Boys is really good. The history of where someone has been killed. And it ends with This Town, which is probably the softest, most acoustic song on this album. And but it works. It works as a closer. And after sort of this raucous, loud music, you get this really more stripped down, softer song. So again, Marah, Kids in Philly. Let's listen to the music, and I'll see you on the other side.
Myself a seat, more people piling on. I watch a busy street, and snow is coming down, and more is on the ground. What's rolling into town? Said I better get back home. I seen the rain so matchless. The apartment has a bed, seen in a vacant mess, all watered down and wet. Seen the horse cop take the beat. Headlight cars do battle down the boulevard and stopping in the corner bars, rolling to get home. And orchestrated stars go laughing at the weather charts, reflecting off the moon and Mars like they were spinning in a bowl, baby. Chinese market on Mario Lanza's, Jackie Wilson, baby, Reed Petite. I've been a prisoner to a white Mr. Coffee, and down here on Christian Street. Come on, so come on, so come on, so come on, come on. Even if you don't want it, even if you don't want it, even if you don't want it, this is bad. Let me get home. Let me get home. Hey yo, I got a lantern around on a battery power. I got a couple of friends coming by in an hour. I got a radio player, blues, soul, and funk. I wanna get on stage and this is what I wanna. Let me get on. Last night I closed my eyes and watched tracers fly through the jungle trees like fireflies on a windy night, pulled up and onward by the breeze. I can still hear the far off tin-can sound of their machine guns come unwound, and I was shaking like little Richard. I'm from a river home. I'm from a towers made of bones. I'm from the skyline of a great big town. Life and time will count your friends. I've seen them fall to slow sad ends. So I'm thinking all the words you thought. I'm tired on a beer drunk. I don't even hold the wheel when I'm driving. I don't ever look behind me in a mirror, 'cause I don't care to see a new horizon, or to watch an old horizon disappear. No way. I ain't never tasted wine or seen the inside of a bar. I've been walking out of line, but that ain't mattered so far. There was a charred spot in the gutter, and it would slick up in the rain. There was a half tin can, and it been burned over the brand name. Tall windows, painted in plywood, warehouses closed forever, and the every night mosquitoes with no intent to land. There came an old dog with a bad limp. He had a slow gait, baby, and a hunger. And there was some pigeons on a wire, and they were open-eyed and still. I remember you. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You were a pistol pointing off. You've been paralyzed to luck. Do you out shaking a cup there on the corner?
So that's it. That's Marah, Kids in Philly. One of the last groups and albums that I had the opportunity to discuss with Beans. So again, something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. However, this video is not over because since it is, in a way, my tribute to Beans, I wanted something more. And as many of you know, Beans, Kevin, was himself a musician. And he had his own band. He was the drummer in a band called Marlee Rose. And Marlee Rose was a band that was named after Kevin's young daughter, who he unfortunately had lost at an early age. And while I don't have any CDs or physical media to show you on that, Marlee Rose, the music can be found online. And I have found it and I have downloaded it. So I do have my own CD that I made from that. But rather than share my sort of homemade CD, I want to share with you the music that I have from Marlee Rose. And I think, you know, when we listen to it and when we see those images of Kevin and his band that I will be putting up with this music, you wish there was more. I wish there was more. I wish there was more music. I wish I had more time with Beans. I wish I had gotten to know him sooner, better, and I wish there was something I could have done to have him here now. But why don't we take a listen to the music, and I'll see you on the other side.
Say they make it all up shiny anyway. Close your eyes so you can see what's inside you. Come walk with me. It's just a lie, bye bye. Shine.
So that was Kevin's band, Marlee Rose. There's not much more that I can say. I do want to say again my condolences to Kevin's family. My heart goes out to all of you. And I want to give a special thanks to Kevin's sister, Melinda. I want to thank her for giving me the green light to make this video, to use some of the images, and for actually sending me pictures. So thank you, Melinda. And again, my deepest sympathies on your loss. We all miss you, Beans. We hope you and Marlee Rose are together and that your new life beyond this life serves you better. And I'll see you on the other side.